Be faithful in small things, because it is in them that your strength lies. While Mother Teresa said it, my dad proved it. Working on things with my dad as a kid taught me the skills I needed to know to work on everything, but I didn't develop the passion for it until August of 2019. I learned a lot about myself and how I cope with grief, and about my relationship with my dad. Me and my dad would work on everything from plumbing to cars to fences, and we built an apartment one summer because my parents were teachers and they were broke, and so we had to do it ourselves. And so I learned electrical, I learned, again, more cars, saws, measuring, geometry. Hate that subject, but I learned it. And it was always a necessary skill for us. And I learned it, I retained it, and I use it, and I've used it my whole life. And I'm glad I had those skills. Well, in August of 2019, my heart was broken, and my dad was out at the lake, and I went to go visit him, and when I showed up, I was crying, and he had me work on his boat. That was broken because boats cost a lot of money, and they're always broken. And he had a starter, there was a nut that was loose, and my dad made me work on it. And I jacked with it for probably 10-15 minutes, and got it working, and everything was fine. And then he had me work on another thing that was wrong with it, like the carpet was torn in one spot, and he had me fix that. And he kept finding little things that were wrong with his boat, and I spent the first 4 hours I was with him working on a boat. And, I was grumbling and griping and telling my dad all about my world's problems, and cussing and yelling and talking about how this boat was a stupid piece of junk and I never wanted to work on it again. And spent most of the day laughing with my dad and, again, talking about all the things that hurt and all the things that I didn't want to deal with. And when it was all said and done, we went, and the boat wasn't fixed. It had to go to the shop. And when I was driving with my dad to go drop it off, he told me that he didn't need help working on the boat. He knew that it wasn't something we could fix. But working on things when I was sad always seemed to fix the broken parts of myself. He said that anytime I was upset, I was mad, sad, anything, it didn't matter. Anything that I felt, as soon as I started breaking something or fixing something that was broken, a little piece of myself got fixed too. And I thought he was crazy. And so we talked about it, and I found out that my dad knew me better than anybody. He knew how I worked better than I knew how I worked. He knew my grief. He knew that I didn't know how to cope with it, and so he taught me how. And it took him 24 years to tell me how I coped with grief and how I fixed all my head problems. But I finally learned it. I didn't realize that a seemingly small part of my life that was necessary, but insignificant, was actually a huge part of my heart. I learned that working on things allows me to work through every part of my grief. And I also learned that my dad knew me better than I gave him credit for. And all of this newfound knowledge about myself and my dad and kind of how life worked for me created a passion for me in working on things, especially like cars and other mechanical things.
Woohoo! Yay!